You're lying awake at 3 in the morning, replaying moments from your bedroom, wondering if what's happening between you two measures up to everyone else. The question haunting you isn't really about technique or frequency, it's deeper. Am I normal? Does she feel the way she should? And that second question lurking in the shadows, is she still tight enough? These thoughts consume you because somewhere along the line, you started comparing your intimate reality to some invisible benchmark you believe exists out there. Chasing normal means missing what's actually real between you. Maybe you're analyzing frequency, questioning whether she feels different than before, measuring your performance against phantom standards, wondering if time has changed everything. But here's the revelation nobody's sharing with you. You're pursuing entirely the wrong questions. Because normal represents a trap keeping you imprisoned in comparisons against standards that don't legitimately exist. And this tightness fixation, it exposes a fundamental misunderstanding of what's genuinely occurring in her body during arousal. Let me outline what we're examining today. First, why this obsession with normality actively sabotages your intimacy and prevents genuine satisfaction. Then, the specific misconceptions about frequency and performance that torment men's psychology. And finally, the complete truth about vaginal tightness, what it actually signifies, why most guys fundamentally misinterpret it, and what it reveals about her arousal that transforms everything. Most guys invest decades measuring their bedroom against everyone else's instead of questioning whether they are genuinely fulfilled with their reality. That singular mistake cost them years of superior intimacy. Let's begin with something potentially surprising. The entire framework of normal in sexuality is fundamentally broken. When guys approach me questioning whether they're normal, what they're genuinely asking is whether they measure up to some phantom standard they've constructed mentally. And where does that standard originate? Usually a combination of locker room mythology, content you've consumed in entertainment or online, perhaps something you absorbed from a men's magazine decades ago, and substantial anxiety about whether you're executing correctly. Consider how absurd this genuinely is. You're comparing your private, intimate moments with your partner to a fictional average assembled from other people's exaggerated narratives and meticulously edited fantasies. It resembles comparing your authentic daily existence to what people broadcast on social media, then feeling inadequate because your Tuesday morning doesn't mirror their highlight compilation. The entire framework is engineered to make you feel insufficient. Sexual satisfaction is intensely personal. What works beautifully for one couple might be completely wrong for another. What genuinely matters here is comprehending that sexual fulfillment is intensely personal. What functions beautifully for one couple might be entirely inappropriate for another. Some couples connect through intimacy multiple times weekly. Others discover their rhythm is monthly, yet it's profoundly meaningful when it occurs. Neither is correct or incorrect. They're simply different. But when you're fixating on whether you're normal, you overlook the entire objective, which is whether both of you feel fulfilled. One of the most significant areas where this comparison obsession generates problems centers around frequency. You want to know what's normal, so you might research statistics claiming the average couple has intercourse a specific number of times monthly. Then you compare your relationship to that figure and either feel relieved or inadequate depending on your position. But those averages are completely meaningless for your specific circumstances. Here's something that gets overlooked constantly. Sexual frequency naturally fluctuates based on your life stage. When you initially connected, you probably couldn't restrain yourselves. That's new relationship energy combined with novelty and the excitement of discovery. 5 years later, with children, demanding careers, and financial responsibilities, your frequency will likely differ. That doesn't signify something's damaged. It signifies your life circumstances have evolved. But instead of accepting this natural progression and emphasizing quality, countless guys get trapped in their thoughts, believing something must be wrong because they're not matching some arbitrary benchmark. And that anxiety itself becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're so concerned about being normal that you stop being present during the intimacy you do experience. Let's discuss performance anxiety momentarily because this connects directly to the comparison trap. When you're constantly measuring yourself against what you believe other men are doing, how long they endure, how firm they get, how many times they perform nightly, you transform intimacy into an examination you might fail. And the instant you start treating intimacy like a performance evaluation, you've destroyed the actual connection that makes intimacy satisfying initially. Your body responds to stress. If you're anxious about whether you're measuring up, that anxiety impacts your physical response. Blood flow gets redirected. Your nervous system shifts into survival mode instead of the relaxed state supporting arousal and function. You're literally manufacturing the problem you're worried about by obsessing over whether it's normal. Something else worth examining is the myth that men perpetually want intimacy and should always be prepared. This expectation causes enormous shame for guys who aren't in the mood sometimes, who require emotional connection before physical intimacy, or who experience periods where their libido decreases. You're human, not machinery. Your desire fluctuates based on stress, health, sleep, relationship dynamics, age, and countless other factors. But because there's this cultural narrative that authentic men are always prepared for intimacy, guys feel defective when they're not. They start questioning if something's wrong with them, if they have hormonal issues, if they're not attracted to their partner anymore, when in reality, it's completely natural for desire to ebb and flow. The problem isn't your body. It's the unrealistic expectation that you should operate at constant peak performance, regardless of what else is occurring in your life. Now let me shift to what actually creates a fulfilling, intimate relationship, because once you stop pursuing normal, you can focus on what genuinely matters. Communication is foundational, and most couples are terrible at it. When it comes to intimacy, you make assumptions about what she wants instead of asking. She makes assumptions about what you want instead of telling you. Both of you are attempting to perform based on what you think the other person expects rather than exploring what you actually desire together. Genuine sexual satisfaction comes from being able to discuss openly what feels pleasurable, what doesn't, what you'd like to explore, what your boundaries are. It comes from both partners feeling safe enough to be vulnerable and honest. And it requires you to check your ego at the entrance and accept that you're not automatically supposed to know everything about her body just because you're a man. Another crucial element is understanding that quality intimacy isn't just about the physical act. It's about the entire context of your relationship. How do you treat each other outside the bedroom? Do you show appreciation? Do you handle conflicts constructively? Do you make her feel desired in everyday moments, not just when you want intimacy? All of this feeds into connection. You can't ignore your partner emotionally all week and then expect passionate connection on Saturday night. Quality matters infinitely more than quantity. One deeply connected, present, mutually satisfying experience beats 10 rushed, disconnected encounters every single time. But you won't prioritize quality if you're fixated on hitting some frequency number you discovered online. You'll end up having mediocre intimacy more often instead of amazing intimacy less often. Something that often gets lost in conversations about sexual normality is the importance of novelty and exploration within your relationship. Over time, familiarity can become routine, and routine can become boring. This doesn't mean you need to do anything extreme or uncomfortable. It just means staying curious about each other, trying new things occasionally, changing locations or timing, communicating about fantasies, keeping the playfulness alive. But again, if you're stuck comparing yourself to what you think everyone else is doing, you might push for things that don't actually interest either of you just because you think that's what normal couples do. Or you might avoid exploring things you're genuinely curious about because you're worried they're too unconventional. Neither approach serves you. Now let's address the elephant in the room, the question that probably brought many of you to this video: vaginal tightness. This is one of those topics surrounded by so much misinformation that it creates anxiety for both men and women. So let me be extremely transparent about something. Vaginal tightness is not an indicator of how much intimacy a woman has experienced. This is one of those persistent myths that refuses to disappear, and it causes genuine harm in relationships. The vagina is made of muscle tissue. It's designed to stretch and return to its natural state. Consider this. This is an organ that can accommodate childbirth and then return to normal function. Having intimacy, whether it's once or 1,000 times, doesn't permanently alter the structure. What does affect how things feel during intimacy? Arousal levels, pelvic floor muscle tone, hormonal changes, age, stress levels, and how relaxed she is with you in that moment. When a woman is fully aroused, increased blood flow causes the vaginal walls to expand and lubricate. This is a healthy, normal response that makes intimacy comfortable and pleasurable for both of you. If she feels tighter, it might actually mean she's not fully aroused yet, which isn't necessarily a positive thing. But because so many guys have been fed this narrative that tighter equals better, they completely misunderstand what's actually happening in her body. Tightness isn't a measure of her past, it's a signal of her present arousal state. What you're perceiving as tightness could be muscle tension from stress or anxiety. It could be insufficient arousal time. It could be her pelvic floor muscles naturally contracting during arousal, which is completely normal and varies from woman to woman. None of these things have anything to do with her intimate history or how used her body is, a concept that's degrading and anatomically false. The obsession with tightness often comes from the same place as all these other normal questions: insecurity and comparison. Guys worry that if she doesn't feel a certain way, it means something about her past or about whether you're enough for her. But what you should actually be paying attention to is whether she's genuinely aroused, whether she's enjoying herself, whether you're both present and connected during intimacy. If you're concerned about sensation during intimacy, focus on things that actually matter. Are you taking enough time for foreplay? Is she fully aroused before penetration? Are you communicating about positions and angles that feel pleasurable for both of you? Are you present in the moment or distracted by performance anxiety? These are the factors that determine satisfying intimacy, not some arbitrary measurement of tightness. The final piece I want to address is aging and how intimate norms shift over time. What's typical for a 25-year-old couple is different from what's typical for a 50-year-old couple, and that's completely acceptable. Your body changes, her body changes, hormones shift, health conditions emerge, energy levels fluctuate. None of this means your intimate life is over or inadequate. It just means it evolves. Men who adapt to these changes and focus on maintaining intimacy and connection, regardless of frequency or performance, have satisfying, intimate lives well into their later years. Men who rigidly cling to what their intimate life looked like in their 20s and feel like failures when that's no longer their reality struggle unnecessarily. Flexibility and acceptance are your friends here. So when you ask, "Is my intimate life normal?" what you're really asking is, "Am I okay?" And the answer is yes, as long as you and your partner are both satisfied, communicating, and connecting. Stop measuring yourself against imaginary standards. Start measuring yourself against whether you're showing up fully for the person you're with. If this cleared up some confusion you've been carrying, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment and tell me what's one intimate myth you believed for way too long before realizing it was complete nonsense. I read through every comment. Thanks for being here and take care.